الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه. Inshallah, in today's class we will be going through Surah Qader. This surah is a very short surah. It speaks about Laylatul Qadr specifically, but the real focus of the surah is the Quran itself and the revelation itself. And the unique thing about the Quran, it being the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not created, is that anything that comes in contact with the Quran, it becomes noble, it becomes something of worth. So the scholars, they've highlighted this in the past. They say, as an example, from all the angels, the angel that received the Quran and was given the task to be sent to the Prophet ﷺ with the Quran was Jibreel alayhi salam. And because of that, Jibreel became the leader amongst the angels. From amongst the people, the person who received the Quran was the Prophet ﷺ. And because receiving this blessed revelation, he became the leader amongst the prophets, alayhi salam. The nation that received the Quran, the nation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they received the Quran, they became the best of nations. The month that the Quran was revealed in became the best of all the months in the year. The night that the Quran was revealed became the best of all nights. So you see how the Quran, anything it comes in touch with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises in virtue. And if you understand that, you understand the virtue of those people who memorize the Quran, those people who implement the Quran, those people who have dedicated their lives to the Quran. Because yes, part of it is memorizing, but even more important than that is acting according to the Quran. Because the Quran, like the Prophet ﷺ said, it can be hujjah, evidence, either for you or against you. The Quran can be evidence either for you or against you. And if you implement the Quran the way it's supposed to be implemented, then on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the Quran will come and it will intercede on your behalf. The Prophet ﷺ told us in a hadith that fasting and the Quran both come and they will intercede on the person's behalf on the day of judgment. So this Quran, it is not something to be taken lightly. It is, when it was recited during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, those early Muslims, it would move their hearts. They would fall down crying because of its eloquence, the stories that are mentioned in the Quran. Yet sadly today, it feels like our hearts have become so hard that sometimes you might go into a shop or a restaurant, they play the Quran in the background and people don't even pay attention to it. And everyone is having their own conversations. So the right approach to the Quran is always to try to read it with as much understanding as possible. It is not, you should not look at how much Quran you covered. Some people, they boast and they say, you know, last night I finished so many chapters in the Quran. And they ask each other and they say, how far have you reached in the Quran? When In reality, the question should be, how far has the Quran reached in your heart? How far has the Quran reached in your heart, in your understanding? Because once you understand the Quran, it shows in your actions. You become the person who tells the truth. You become the person who stays away from backbiting. You become the person who follows the Prophet ﷺ step by step. So let us look at this surah. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr." Verily, indeed, we have revealed it or sent it down during this night of Laylatul Qadr. A point of interest here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He refers to the revelation of the Quran, it is often said, "Anzalna." And this word, it means in Arabic something that is sent down. So some of the scholars, they use this as evidence to show that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is high and above His creation. Because in order for something to be sent down, the one that is sending it down is above the one that is receiving it. So this is one of those verses where scholars, they say this shows that it shows ululullah, the highness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that as people who follow the Quran and the Sunnah, we do not say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere. This is an important point for us to understand as Muslims. Yes, in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you wherever you are. So some people, they think that this means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally is everywhere, that Allah Azza wa Jalla surrounds us. But the scholars in Islam, they say this means through the knowledge of Allah. That Allah Azza wa Jalla is always aware of what everyone is doing and all of His creation. But as far as when the question is asked, where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah Azza wa Jalla is one, Qul huwallahu ahad. This is the royal we that is used in many different languages, in Arabic as well. It is to show authority, to show how majestic Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And it's important to highlight that because sometimes people, when they read the Quran the first time, the translation, they get confused. They say, I thought Islam was a religion about the Tawheed and monotheistic religion, and then I hear we, who is with Allah? And the answer is, no one is with Allah. Excuse me. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla asks, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. And this is one of those ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings attention, draws the attention of the listener, of the reader. And this is not unique to this surah. Many times in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-Qari'ah, Al-Qari'ah, wa ma adraka Al-Qari'ah, in order to entice the reader and the listener to make sure that they pay attention. Laylatul Qadr, you can imagine this being the first time this word being used, this definition of the night of power, or the night of decree, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains this word and also explains the significance of this word. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. Excuse me. Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. This night of power or decree, it is better than 1,000 months. Notice the preciseness of the words of Allah. This night is better than 1,000 nights. Allah Azza wa Jalla did not say this night is equal to 1,000 months. Allah Azza wa Jalla did not say this night is equal to 1,000 months. He said khayrun, it is better. Why is this important? Because many people, when they see these numbers here, 1,000 months, what do? They go to the calculator and they start calculating, and they say the night of decree is 83 years. But that is not what Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us. He's telling us that this night is actually better than those 83 years. And that reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالْرُوحُ. One of the things that makes this night special We said that it was the night that the Quran was revealed, and also this is the night where the angels, تنزل الملائكة, the angels, they descend. والروح, and the ruh. And the question is, who is the ruh? The answer to that is mentioned in other parts of the Quran. نزل به الروح الأمين, when Allah Azza wa Jalla is referring to Jibreel, who conveyed the Quran to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is referred to many times in the Quran as Ar-Ruh. Now, why is Jibreel called Ar-Ruh? The scholars in Islam, they've given different interpretations. They say he is referred to as Ar-Ruh because it signifies his creation. Excuse me. He has a ruh like other creations. Other scholars, they've given more precise explanation, and they've said he is referred to as a ruh because he has been given the task of passing on the revelation, and in turn that revelation is what feeds the arwah, that feeds the souls of people. That through the revelation, people's souls are fed through the Quran, through knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the same way that our bodies need sustenance, they need the food and the drink. Without it, the body will perish, it will wither away. Similarly, when it comes to the ruh, the soul of the person, it needs that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if it does not have that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the soul will wither away. Not that the soul dies, but it will be neglected. The soul will be neglected. So, because of Jibreel's connection, alayhi salam, with the revelation itself, this is a name, specific name that he is known by as Ar-Ruh. And in some context, Ar-Ruh al-Amin, the trusted Ruh. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, the angels, the angels, they descend with Jibreel. Notice how Jibreel is mentioned specifically. The angels are mentioned and Jibreel is mentioned individually. And this again, it shows how important Jibreel is and how honored he has become through this message that he has taken on, the message of the Quran. فِيهَا بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ أَمْرٍ, and they descend with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In some narrations it mentions that the malaika, they come down in great numbers on Laylatul Qadr, to such an extent that there's almost no space except that there is an angel who has descended upon that place. And then when the angels come, they come with this peace and tranquility, which some scholars, they've said this is one of the signs of Laylatul Qadr, that you feel this peace and tranquility fill the whole atmosphere. That night has a special feeling to it that is different from the other nights. And along with many other signs, because what is well known is that Laylatul Qadr is something that has been hidden. The knowledge of Laylatul Qadr, of exactly when it is something that has been hidden by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's many wisdoms points to that. If it was known to be a fixed time every year and everyone knew, then even the lazy person would seek it out. But the fact that it is not known, it will help the person strive even more. So even if you did not find, let's say, something happened and you missed out on the night that was actually Laylatul Qadr, you really didn't miss out on worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were awake during the other nights, and if you are awake throughout those 10 last nights, then some of the scholars have said that inshallah you will have found Laylatul Qadr. So this peace and this tranquility, it remains حتى مطلع الفجر, until the sun rises the next day. So, a side point here, when we speak about the day and the night in Islamic terms, the night comes before the day. So, meaning that the new date, the Islamic date, will always begin the night of. As soon as the sun sets, then it will move on to another date, as opposed to what people, the way that people think here in this part of the world and many other parts, where midnight is the time where it changes. But in Islamic context, the night comes before the day. So this is the reason why we pray Salatul Tarawih before we fast. Because that night is counted as a night of Ramadan. That night is counted as a night of Ramadan. So we start our Tarawih prayers the night before we fast, and then the next day we are fasting. Another point to mention here is, even though the Malaika are so honored and have such great power as mentioned in other parts of the Quran, notice how Allah Azza wa Jalla says that they descend بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ, with the permission of their Lord. And this echoes other parts in the Quran where the Malaika, they say, وَمَا نَتَنَزَّلُ إِلَّا بِأَمْرِ رَبِّكَ لَهُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِينَا وَمَا خَلْفَنَا وَمَا بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ. That the angels, they say, we do not descend or we do not move without the permission of our Lord. So Jibreel alayhi salam, who is so powerful, so respected, he knows that he can only move with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the angels are special, and another quality of the angels is that they do not have free will, meaning they cannot go against the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do I mention this? Because in Islam there is no such concept as a fallen angel. You know, in some other religions, people, they speak about Iblis being an angel and he was a fallen angel. But in Islam, there is no such thing. Excuse me. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. That these angels, they do not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the command comes, they fulfill the command. Yet, we know that human beings, they have free will, they have a choice. And even though the angels spend every single moment worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is possible for a human being to be better than an angel. It is possible for a human being to be better than an angel. And the evidence is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is khayru khalqillah. He is the best of all creation. Even more virtuous than Jibreel alayhi salam himself. And this is shown many times in the Quran, where, for example, when the Prophet ﷺ went with Jibreel and with the Isra, the Mi'raj, once they reached the level, Sidratul Muntaha, Jibreel, he stopped there. And he said, this is my limit, I cannot go beyond this. Yet who went beyond that limit? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So, again, I mention this because sometimes when we speak about the angels, you can be starstruck, and you think to yourself, oh, these angels, they're a different creation. And even the Quraysh at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to use this as a hujjah. They used to say, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not send an angel so he can teach us about the religion? But the point is that it is possible for a person to become even better than an angel. So, this is, in short, the tafsir of this surah. Again, the point of these classes are not to delve into all the aspects, but for us to get a little bit of an understanding, a glimpse into it. And I encourage brothers and sisters to also read up and do their own research. And the more you learn, the more impact the surah will have when you are praying in salah. So if you understand Surah Al-Fatiha, the next time when you recite it, it will help you focus in the prayer. So this is an ongoing journey. We learn more about the Quran, and through this knowledge we get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah this week we'll stop here. Next week we'll continue with the next surah, Surah Iqra or Surah Al-Alaq. If brothers have any questions, now is the time to ask.
So when the verse refers to the revelation of Quran, I'm guessing is the revelation of the first verse. Is it the first verse of Quran, the Iqra Bismi Rabbika, or what part of the Quran?
Yes, Jazakallah khairan. So this will leave until next week, but just to answer that, Surah Al-Alaq, Iqra Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq, this is considered by the majority of the scholars as being the first surah, the first chapter in the Quran to be revealed. And interestingly, it talks about reading, it emphasizes knowledge, and it being the first chapter in the Quran, it shows how important knowledge is in Islam. The first part of the Quran that was revealed were these 5 verses of Iqra, and the 5th verse says, عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told mankind that which they did not know. But inshallah we'll deal with that in the next class.
So my question was,
yes.
in the first, when the verse is the month of Quran,
Yes.
was it that first part of Quran revelation, or?
Yes, Jazakallah khairan. So when we say that Laylatul Qadr was the time when the Quran was revealed, it shows the beginning of the revelation. Okay, so this surah was revealed during that night, that initial revelation. I hope that answers the question. Yes.
By this point,
Yes.
I read before that there are other say about this, that some say that the whole Quran was downloaded in the Samad Dunya in this day, and after that going down by the events in this time. And some say no, that's the Quran in this night download on the Nabi, the heart of the Nabi one time, and after that go by the events. And some say no, it starts by this day.
Yes.
So that's
Jazakallah khairan. That's a very good point. So there's many different opinions. One well known is that Laylatul Qadr is the time where the Quran was moved from Lawh al-Mahfuz to the Samad al-Dunya, and then it was revealed in parts to the Prophet ﷺ. But there's also opinions that say that Laylatul Qadr is the night where Iqra, this surah, was revealed as well. So there's many differences of opinion. Allahu A'lam, which one is closest to the truth. Yes.
I'm talking about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said last 10 days.
Yes.
About it. How about Sheikh the Qawl ibn Abbas? He's Aqsam, his 27.
Yes, Jazakallah khairan. It's a very good point. Laylatul Qadr, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, look for it in the 10 nights, not only that, but look for it in the odd 10 nights, the last 10 nights. Now you have Jamr ibn Sahaba, a good portion of the Sahaba, like Ibn Abbas and others, who swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Laylatul Qadr is on the 27th. The majority of the companions, a good portion of them, said that Laylatul Qadr is on the 27th night of Ramadan. Now, there are also other companions who swear by Allah that Laylatul Qadr was on the 23rd night. And there's difference of opinion. And the best way that I have come across where the ulama have made jamr or brought these different statements together, how is it possible that someone is swearing on the 23rd and another is on the 27th and so on? The explanation is that Laylatul Qadr, it is not the same night every year. That Laylatul Qadr keeps moving. So it is possible that for the companions who swore by Allah that it is the 27th, that on that year Laylatul Qadr was on the 27th. And for those who swore by Allah that Laylatul Qadr was on the 23rd, that it was on the 23rd. And there's also other explanations to it. But the best thing that we can do as Muslims is we leave it the way that the Prophet ﷺ left it. Yes, there's more likelihood when you have the companions saying that this is the night, but the best approach is to look for it in those last 10 nights. And if, like we said, a person stands up in Ramadan praying, then at least they get a good portion of reward. Allah the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man sama Ramadana imanan, man qama Ramadana imanan ihtisaba, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih." So even if you don't find Laylatul Qadr, and for some reason you were sick or something happened and it happened to be that night, then inshallah you still get the reward of standing in Ramadan and all that khair that comes with it. And even Laylatul Qadr, the Prophet ﷺ said a similar hadith, "Man qama Laylatul Qadr imanan ihtisaba, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih." If whoever stands Laylatul Qadr, anticipating the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and firm conviction, that person will have their past sins forgiven. And Allah knows best. Yes?
So, about like people seeking for the day
Yes.
or the Qadr. So we know Ramadan is sometimes comes in summer, in winter. So it's 27th or 23rd is changing. So we have to, I think, it's by time.
Yes.
So it's because Ramadan is changing. the
Yes.
days. So the Laylatul Qadr can be in any days of the year, not like this.
Yes. Well, Jazakallah khair. This is actually one of the opinions of some of the ulama. When you look into the different opinions, when Laylatul Qadr is, there are so many different opinions. Some of the ulama, they say Laylatul Qadr is actually the first night of Ramadan. The first night of Ramadan is Laylatul Qadr. And some even say, like the brother is mentioning, that Laylatul Qadr can actually be outside Ramadan. That Laylatul Qadr can be outside the month of Ramadan. However, Allahu A'lam, most of the scholars lean towards the opinion that Laylatul Qadr is connected with Ramadan. So even if Ramadan moves throughout the year, Laylatul Qadr moves with it. But definitely, some of the scholars have mentioned that opinion that Laylatul Qadr can happen outside the month of Ramadan. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Yes?
So, as you said, Sheikh, Prophet said, look for the Bible Qadr in the last 10 days.
Yes.
In the odd numbers of days. Then, now you have mentioned again that it can be even outside, some people say.
Yes.
So, how people can say, after saying by Prophet Muhammad something, and then other people can say something else? Is there any wisdom behind how?
Yes, Jazakallah khair, a very good point. So this is the reason why we say the majority of the scholars, they lean towards it being connected because there's clear evidence for it. For those who say that Laylatul Qadr can happen outside Ramadan, many of them, they use logic. Okay, they say because it keeps moving like this and other conditions, they say it could be possible that it is outside Ramadan. So this is why I say it is that the safer option is to follow the clear hadith and to look for Laylatul Qadr in those last 10 nights, especially the odd nights. But just to make it clear that it's not something that has been made up when a person says Laylatul Qadr could be outside the month of Ramadan. It is, some of the scholars, they've said this, but again, the majority lean towards it still being in Ramadan. Yes?
So in the word anzalna,
Yes.
anzalna fi Laylatul Qadr. In another surah, and وأنزلنا الحديد.
Yes.
So it's
Yes, because the Quran is revealed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Jibreel alayhi salam. And even the hadith that is mentioned in Surah Al-Hadid, some of the scholars, and before I mention this, it's important for us to realize that the Quran is not a book of science. Some people, they look into the Quran trying to prove a scientific point. And they say, oh, this is what Allah Azza wa Jal meant, and this is what science says, so this is the truth. But the problem is, science is the understanding of the world at the moment. And science changes. The understanding that people had of the world 500 years ago is not the same understanding that they have today. But the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change. لا مبدل لكلمات الله. There is no change when it comes to the speech of Allah. So it is dangerous sometimes to link an ayah straight to a scientific point, because what happens once that scientific point is disproven, then people will come back and say, hey, you used this and now we know that this is not the truth. So this verse is a mistake. Having said that, some people, when it comes to this verse, وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ, they say, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention that the hadid, iron, was sent down? And they say, they look into science, and they say, even scientists today, they say that iron is a metal that does not naturally form here on earth. That iron was deposited through the asteroids or the meteors or whatever that hit the earth, and it became part of the earth that way. So when Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us that He sent down iron, this is what is meant. But we say Allahu A'lam. So when it comes to this part here, to my knowledge, it refers to the same sending down, that something comes from above to something that is below. And Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. Yes?
So, Sheikh, you mentioned the verse like the Quran had influence on the people like Sahaba.
Yes.
And Kuffar too. And even though they say that is not in the Quran.
Yes.
So why we don't have like now the people when they hear the Quran,
Yes.
they don't have any effect on the people.
Jazakallah khairan. Very, very good question and observation. Perhaps what can explain this, and I'll just repeat the question so people can hear it. Why are we told that the Quran moved the hearts of those people before us? That they used to cry and they used to show this emotion when the Quran was read. Even the mushrikeen, they used to tell each other, do not listen to this Quran. And when the Quran is being recited, try to make noise and disturbance. And perhaps what can explain this is a maqala, statement by Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. And he said, I swear by Allah that if your hearts were pure, then you would never be tired of the speech of your Lord, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is highlighting another problem that is connected to it. And this obviously is not talking about the human fatigue. Even the biggest shaykh, no one can continue reading Quran, a person gets tired. But it shows what we see with our own eyes. If you watch a movie that is 2 hours long, it will feel like it went like that. But if you sit down to read Quran for 2 hours, after half an hour you will start looking at the watch, at the clock, and you'll say, oh, how much do I have left now? Right? But the movie, you don't look at the clock. So the reason why the Quran had that effect and the impact back then was because people's hearts generally was more, it was more pure, pure from backbiting, pure from riba, pure from sins in general. And the more a person works on their hearts and the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more they will start reading the Quran, acting according to the Quran. One scholar, he said, I notice that my success during the day is directly linked to how much Quran that I read. I've noticed the success during my day is linked to how much Quran that I read. Meaning the days that I wake up and I make time for the Quran, I find those days to be successful. The things that I need, they happen. But the days where I get distracted and I don't read as much Quran, then I find those days to be difficult. So this is one of the reasons, and you will see people who have a clean heart and they try their best when they recite the Quran and they understand the Quran, it will move them in a similar way, not the exact same way, but at least they feel that appreciation of the Quran and the revelation in general.
So just that's they say also one more reason about this, that because the people before, their own language was the Arabic and the Fusha of Arabic, the Kalam. So that they didn't use more writing and reading. So what they heard, that they can imagine, they understand what they say, and it goes directly to their heart. They don't have anything to memorize. So it was more effect on them because they understood the qawl. That's one of the companion when he came to Mecca, he was a sha'ir, and they say to him, don't listen to the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he says something. So when he came, he said, no, I'm a sha'ir, and I say what the Kahan say. This is not sha'ir, this is not Kahan, this is Quran coming from Allah. So also because they understand the language and they have a knowledge in every word that say, so their heart can step then who is a little bit far from that language.
Exactly. No, that's very correct. When it comes to understanding, if a person has studied the English language, just as an example, they might have a PhD. When they go back to Shakespeare and these other people, they have this sense of appreciation, the words that are chosen, the structure of the poem, and so on and so forth. Now imagine people, a whole nation, like the Arabs back then, who they used to have annual competitions in sharing, in poetry, where they would come from all over the place, and the one that wins would get their poem put at the Kaaba itself, and it would be an honor. And this is one of those things that people looked up to back in the day. So they know best the beauty. So when these shu'ara, these poets, when they started hearing the Quran, they realized this is not the way that we speak. This is something beyond our capability. In the same way, if you remember the story of Musa alayhi salam, with the Sahara, the magicians, they knew their magic. They were very good at the magic. Even Fir'aun, when he sends the message fil madain, in the cities, he doesn't call for just any magician. He doesn't want just any magician. He wants sahirun alim. He wants the most educated, the best at their trade, at the magic. So the best in the land, they come. And once they they see what Musa alayhi salam is doing, they can appreciate because they know magic and they can make the distinction. And Fir'aun, who does not know magic, what is his reply? He thinks Musa alayhi salam is like one of them. And he says, إِنَّهُ لَكَبِيرُكُمُ الَّذِي عَلَّمَكُمُ السِّحْرَ. He said, well, Musa is just like you, and he is the one that actually taught all of you magic. But the magicians, they know that there's a difference here. Similarly, when the Quran is being recited, the Arabs who were the poets at that time, as soon as they heard it, they said, this is not the Qawl of Bashar, this is not human speech, this is something different. But a person who was not a sha'ir, like Abu Jahl and others, what did they say? They started making fun of the Prophet ﷺ. And they said one time he's a sahir, another time they said he's a majnoon, and so on and so forth. So Jazakallah khair for that.
So is there any tafsir around why Allah equated that night to 1,000 nights specifically? Or
Jazakallah khairan. What I have come across is the scholars have said that first of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this as a gift for His believing servants. Secondly, it also shows that if a person tries, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides them to something that is even better. As far as why 1,000 months, it also shows another point, which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can decide on whatever He wants. Allah Azza wa Jalla, if He wanted to, He could have made Laylatul Qadr 10,000 months. He could made it 100 months. But Allah Azza wa Jalla chose this, and it shows the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what I have come across. So inshallah, we will stop here. We will continue next week. Next week, Friday class, we will have inshallah the last part of the story of the Khulafa with Ali radiallahu anhu, and then the Tafseer on Saturday. We will go through the next surah, Surah Al-Alaq. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.